What's up, Exiles? It's Hegemony, and today I wanted to share with you guys my most recent project on the Perennis Hardcore League. This is my Scion Ascendant with the Berseker and Elementalist combo. This happened to be my first explosive arrow character in a PvE setting. I'm going to review some of the choices that you have with explosive arrow, why I chose Scion, and why I chose Berseker Elementalist specifically. The first question is asked, why Scion and not Duelist? In the current state of the game, the Duelist champion offers archers Fortitude, which gives you Fortify all the time. This is something that archers were never able to get. In addition, with Unstoppable Hero, you get increased attack speed while you have Fortify, 8% movement speed while you have Fortify, and 10% increased effect of Fortify on you. The smaller notables in between give you increased evasion and armor rating, which is great for defense, and it gives you a 5% increased effect of Fortify on you. The last 2 points I would spend in this Duelist champion tree would be Inspirational. You and your nearby allies deal 35% increased damage. You and your nearby allies have 10% increased movement speed. So that's a combined 18% movement speed. That is very, very good with 35% damage, in addition to getting Fortify and extra evasion and armor. I want to stress the current date of this video because I project the Duelist champion receiving numerical nerfs in its ascendancy. And I can argue that the Duelist champion is arguably the best class to do explosive arrow in a hardcore league. So now that we address that the Duelist champion is a great choice for explosive arrow, let's talk about the Scion and what it has to offer. Berserker seems to be one of the obvious choices for explosive arrow because it provides 1.5% of damaged leech's life. Now, a Duelist will actually have to run a Life Leech gem in his 6th link, whereas a Scion would not. We have to note that there are some drawbacks. You have 5% increased damage taken. This will also increase your reflection damage taken, which is the #1 concern with an explosive arrow character. We have 25% increased attack and cast speed if you've taken a savage hit recently, and as you can see, a savage hit is a hit that takes 20% of your maximum life. And one of the best properties that comes with the Berserker Scion is the 10% more damage. So now that we ironed out the Berserker for explosive arrow, let's talk about the other options and why I chose the Elementalist. The Raider offers 25% chance to avoid status ailments, which is okay, 2% chance to dodge attacks, which is awesome, 10% chance to gain a frenzy charge on kill, and then here's the kicker, you have onslaught while you're on full frenzy charges. So if you have good clear speed, you'll have onslaught up almost all the time. So why not play Raider? Raider is a great choice, but it doesn't really fit my playstyle. I like having consistent control of what I'm doing. I use Frenzy to generate frenzy charges, and I can get onslaught with the new silver flask that's been implemented in the game. I'm a bit of a pack rat, so I like to pick up a lot of the rares that I find and pick up the smaller orbs. It's just the way I play. And it would really stress me out if I was trying to keep up my frenzy charges with this 10% chance and try to keep them maxed with onslaught. I prefer to go the frenzy route, and I use it as a utility skill with calling strike. So I feel like all I really missed out on was the 25% chance to avoid elemental status ailments and the 2% chance to dodge attacks. And the onslaught is up almost all the time thanks to the silver flask. So I understand you can use Frenzy in addition to using Raider, but let's check out my other options. Pathfinder seems to be a great choice. It has 50% increased flash charges gain, which is always a good thing, 25% increased damage during flask effect, 50% chance to avoid freeze, shock, ignite, bleed during flask effect, and 4% reduced elemental damage taken during flask effect. My overall opinion of the Pathfinder is it's one of the strongest classes when you have great unique flask. And that's the thing with explosive arrow on this character. I didn't feel like it needed any unique flask, and the charge generation on the normal flask was fine. The Pathfinder offers similar bonuses to the Elementalist when the flasks are up, but when they're down, you have nothing. So now we're down to the Elementalist, which is the class I picked. This is arguably the last class that you can consider for an explosive arrow Scion. Now we have 4% reduced elemental damage taken passively. This is roughly equivalent to having +1 max res, and it will greatly aid you with the elemental damage reflection. And now that we've reduced elemental damage taken and aided our elemental damage reflection, we can now increase our damage by giving us 5% more pen. In addition, we now have the ability to gain elemental conflux for 4 seconds when you kill a rare or unique enemy. And with great clear speed, you're now able to shock and chill, dealing no lightning or cold damage. This has a 100% chance of proccing for 4 seconds upon killing a rare or unique enemy. The last thing we have is 30% increased damage of each damage type for which you have a matching golem. This means that not only does the fire golem give you 19% global damage at level 20, it'll now give you 30% increased fire damage. That's pretty awesome if you ask me. So the bottom line is, the Scion doesn't have to run the Life Leech gem, it doesn't have Fortify, it doesn't have the crazy movement speed that a duelist champion would, but it does have a lot of damage amplification through all the properties. In addition, it does have some damage reduction. It gets the unique property to apply conflux after killing a rare or unique. It gives you 2 passive skill points, 40 strength and 40 int. The int is very nice as it's an off stat, and it allows you to level up your ink AoE and your flammability just fine. Alright, enough with the Ascendancy stuff. Let's talk about the actual character and equipment. I'm using 2 quill reins, one for AoE and one for single target. The AoE is loaded with Explosive Arrow, less duration. It's important to note that this gem was modified in this expansion to get more damage. So now we have 29% more at level 19. You might wonder, how does less duration affect this skill? And the best way to think about it is Explosive Arrow is like a sticky bomb and has an arming time and it explodes. By having less duration, you now have the explosion happen sooner than later. Ink AoE is the next support gem that increases the size of the explosion, which allows AoE overlap, also known as shotgunning. And the last few supports are Fire Pen and GMP for additional arrows. I don't have to link Life Leech because I'm a Scion that has the Berseker Ascendant. And my plans for a 6th link will be Empower. In my helmet, I have Arctic Breath, Flammability, GMP, and Casting Damage taken level 1. It's left at the lowest rank because I wanted to proc as often as possible and lay out that chilled ground. The Flammability is not affected by the casting damage taken. I have to self-cast it. A lot of people like to use Curse on Hit, Rain of Arrows with Flammability or LE Weakness. And personally, I couldn't find those links in my setup because I'm using a Comb's Heart, and I do value the casting damage taken GMP Arctic Breath. In my gloves, I have Increased Duration, Vol Grace for when I need it, Decoy Totem, and Enduring Cry. All these skills are defensive by nature, and they're all affected by Increased Duration support gem. The Decoy Totem serves as a good way to funnel mobs into one spot or just take the heat off of you, or get a mob closer to the wall. Enduring Cry gives me a good HP boost and ensures that I'll have physical damage mitigation and a lot of regen. And Vol Grace is there for when I need that extra avoidance. In my boots I have Blink Arrow, Culling Strike, Frenzy, and Flame Golem. My Flame Golem can cull, I can cull with my Frenzy, and this is kind of seen as my utility links. And now I have a reliable way to generate Frenzy charges. In addition, I have 3 things that can cull. In my off swap, I have a second Quill Rain. This one's for my single target. It has Fire Pen, Explosive Arrow, Slower Proj, Rapid Decay, and Conk Effect. I've debated whether or not I want to switch out Rapid Decay for Chance to Ignite. Right now I'm using Flammability. Flammability increases my chance to ignite by 13%, and I have a pretty decent base chance to ignite because quality on Explosive Arrow plus some of my jewels offer it. If you don't have a quality EA, then you definitely need to run the chance to ignite gem. But with the Flammability, I have a 43% chance to ignite. The quivers for this build are really easy to get because all it really needs are life and resist. You can get up to 12% attack speed from the Tora mod if you don't need the resist. Now I'm able to switch back and forth with the X keybind, but I took it a step further and made the bows look very different so I know which one I have whipped out. Now let's talk about the uniques that I use with this character and why I chose to use them. We use Devota's Devotion, which I can argue is BIS for an Explosive Arrow character. It provides a lot of dex, and you will need a lot of dex if you want to use a level 20 or level 21 Explosive Arrow. Calm's Heart is an obvious choice for an endgame chest as it provides armor, a lot of life, and some fire damage. A lot of life will net you a lot of life regen. Essence Worm is a unique that was added in this expansion, and what this does, it gives me +2 level up socketed aura gems. I'm using Purity of Fire, which gives me +4 max fire res. This helps you so much with reflection damage. To start with Essence Worm, I would highly recommend you pick up a level 18 Purity of Fire that's uncorrupted. An 18 will net you 20 with the ring, and that 20 will give you +4 instead of +3 at 19. If I'm able to corrupt this successfully to a level 21 Purity of Fire, I will then have +5 max fire res at level 23. Essence Worm is one of the coolest uniques that has been added in this expansion. It allows a blood magic character to essentially reserve up to 2 auras without reserving any mana or any life. And this is where I feel the Duelist Champion is very strong. A Duelist Champion wouldn't have to run Sibyl's Lament because it has a very potent Fortify. That Fortify will help against reflection damage. Replace this Sibyl's with another Essence Worm and run Grace and run Iron Reflexes, which will then convert that evasion into more armor. Here's a peek at some of the rares that I'm using. They're nothing too special. I bought them all for around 2 to 10 chaos each. And here are some of my flask choices. I'm using a Perpetual Granite Flask of Iron Skin. I am an armor build, so this is a great choice for physical damage mitigation. Bubbling Divine Flask of Staunching. I'll probably change this into a Panicked Eternal Flask of Staunching. My third flask is Bubbling Divine Life Flask of Grounding for the shock removal. Here we have the Bread and Butter Flask, which is the Experimenter's Silver Flask of Adrenaline. This gives me movement speed and increases the duration of my onslaught, which gives me a movement speed and attack speed. So this replaced one of my Quicksilvers. And lastly, we have the Perpetual Quicksilver Flask of Warding, so that I could have rolling curse immunity. The leveling process with this character was quite brutal. It was brutal because I didn't pick up many damage nodes, and I tried to save as many regrets as possible. I used Flame Totem, Fire Trap, and Lightning Tendril. I'm sure there's a plethora of skills that you could use, but I did not enjoy the leveling process until around level 60. I spec'd into Blood Magic around level 59, and that's when I committed to using EA. It was quite brutal because all I really did was traverse the tree and pick up life and resist nodes. I talked to some expert explosive arrow players, and they recommended that you respec into EA around Merciless Dried Lake. There are multiple ways to deal with the single target problems during the leveling process. One way is to set up a single target. Another way is to use Spell Echo Frostwall. The Frostwall is kind of buggy by itself, but if you have 2 of them, it might work. If you guys would like to see the leveling gear or see the leveling tree, feel free to check the view thread in the description below. And if you have any other questions, feel free to put them in the description below or catch me live on twitch.tv/HegemonyTV. Thank you guys for watching, and if you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more videos.